Everybody, welcome back to Change Your Perspective, Change Your Awareness, Change Your Life. I'm Dr. Michelina, hashtag that felon doctor, here to talk about emotional. We're talking about emotional mastery today. I was like, we're here to talk about emotional mastery today. And this one is not easy. This one is the one I would say people struggle with the absolute most because we're so uncomfortable with our own emotions. Because we don't want to experience negative emotion and we don't know how to do that productively. And so what we tend to do, and I am so guilty of this, the guiltiest, is that we compartmentalize, we put our negative emotions in a sort of container where we don't feel them, and so we certainly don't heal them, and we store them. And so we have all these little, what I like to call emotional icebergs in our system because our tissues store our issues. And we all have things that make us emotionally upset. And if you think back, it's always the first thing that you can remember, right? Think back to your childhood. What was something that upset you? I'm sure if I give you 5 seconds, you'll be like, oh, that time I got yelled at, that time that nobody picked me in dodgeball, that time that I liked a boy and he didn't like me back, the time that I got bullied in class. Like, there's 100,000 things that can come to mind. If they're coming to mind, it means you haven't healed them. It means they still hurt you. It means they still live in your system. Now, I told you yesterday I would talk a little bit about our heart today. The funny thing about the heart is its own electromagnetic center in the body. Now, again, quantum physics is telling us this. This isn't Michelina, this is quantum physics. Our heart center makes an electromagnetic force around our body that people call an aura. They call all types of things. But at the end of the day, there is an electromagnetic field that projects out of your body, okay, that you cannot see. 1. 2, we have a cluster of cells in and around our heart space. I think the number is about 20,000 that function and act independently of the brain. Check it out, guys. This is not my research. And that means that we have 2 operating centers. Our brain, by the way, our brain, we use 5% of conscious brain and 95% of subconscious brain, okay? Again, this is not my science research, okay? I'm a social researcher. I'm not a scientific researcher. So just so you know, you can look all this up. Go fact check it for yourself. We have a brain, and we have a heart, and both of them function and operate somewhat independently to some degree of each other. Now, of course, your heart and your brain are working in tandem as well. Everything in your body is working and operating in a system. So that's obviously happening, but we have about 20,000 cells that operate completely independently, and they function as their own brain. Your heart, and this is the most successful people, have a very solid relationship with their heart and their feelings. Now, I don't want you to get it twisted. You don't want to live by your feelings, right? Because they fluctuate. I think emotions have like a 15-minute wave. Emotions have a 15-minute wave. And so any emotion that you feel, give it 15 minutes and it'll pass. If you allow it to. Otherwise, you'll store it and it'll stay and it'll lodge like an ice cube. And so you don't want to live by that. You can't live by that. But you can absolutely use your feelings as an indicator for a lot of things. Emotional mastery, first off, and you know I've said this before, I'll say it again. It's awareness, action, regulation. Mastery comes with regulation. You cannot get to regulation until you get to action. You cannot get to action until you get to awareness. If you're not aware of your emotions, which, guys, I wasn't, and I'll talk to you about that in a minute, you're never getting to regulation. You're never getting to mastery. So first you have to become aware of your emotions. Now, what does that look like? For me, it was when I was in therapy 5 years ago and everything was going on in my life and my life was a complete cluster F. I was in therapy. My world is deconstructing around me. I am the ultimate scarlet letter. You know, everybody's talking about me quite literally in the world, not a lie. And the therapist that I was seeing at the time, she was like, all right, so how are you? I was like, I'm fine. And she was like, okay, you were on the news this morning. Like, you're not fine. Like, I saw you on the news this morning. Like, you're not fine. And I was like, no, yeah, I'm good. And she was like, So she hands me this document of all these faces on it, right? And I'm like, oh, I'm embarrassed, I'm worried, I'm upset, I'm shamed, I'm blah, blah. I'm every negative emotion on there basically. And what I found out for myself was that I didn't have language for how I was feeling, because I never said I'm hurt, I'm scared, I'm upset. Those were not in my vocabulary, because I didn't even allow myself to feel it, because I had been so good at just rising above things and soldiering on. And a lot of people are like this, that I never acknowledged when I was hurt or when I was embarrassed or when I was ashamed for years. From like 5 years old, I think was one of my first shameful things, right? From 5 to literally 28. So 23 years of never really ever saying I'm hurt, I'm embarrassed, I'm scared. None of that, right? Because it didn't feel safe to do so. And who am I going to tell? And why does it even matter, right? Obviously nobody cares, right? Yeah. If you're resonating with this, track with me here, guys, because emotional mastery is important, and it's also impossible. Emotional mastery is impossible because then you get to a depth of emotion, and then you get more depth of emotion, you get more depth of emotion. So you're always working toward mastery because you always need something to grow to, right? You're always working to be your physical best. You're always working to be your mental best. You're always working to be your emotional best. And so going back, I needed language. So I got the language, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm upset, I'm hurt. And I had to make myself feel safe, psychologically and emotionally safe to say that. And so I told her, I was like, these are all the things I'm feeling. She's like, of course you are. What else would you be feeling in a situation like this? You're human. Of course you're feeling those things. I had to give myself permission to feel those things. So if you are at the beginning of the emotional awareness journey, you just have to get comfortable being like, okay, I have emotions. They are valid. Here they are. I had to do that. I was literally living my life like a robot as far as my emotions were concerned. And it still doesn't come easy to me. It does not come easy to me. I have a friend who's like, how do you just show up? Your world's falling apart. Like, how do you show up? And I'm like, because I can take my emotions and I can put them aside and I can deal with them later. Because that's what I did for 30 years. She's like, oh my God. I was like, yeah, it's productive sometimes. But it's also, you got to make sure you bring them back and have a process to deal with them. So when you're in awareness, you're just learning about the things that upset you, that steal your peace, right? That was the next step for me. I was like, okay, what is stealing my peace? Let me pull myself away from it. I was in a relationship with my now ex at the time, my boyfriend, and when he would yell at me, and I had told him, don't do that. Like, it makes me anxious. Like, stop doing that. And he would not listen. So I had to remove myself physically from the problem, because I was like, I am keeping my peace. I'm not sitting in these negative emotions. I'm not going to be anxious because you're unwilling to show up respectfully. I'm not doing it, right? So you really have to, when you get aware of your emotions, you have to advocate for them. And this has to do with boundary setting and all types of other things that, if you're interested in talking more about, I've got courses on in acornsandokes.bhx.tv. I've got one-on-one coaching that I offer if you're interested on boundary setting. That is something I am very good at now because I was very bad at it for a long time. And so that's all stuff that, if you need emotional mastery, this is something that I offer to help you with, because I've worked through the process of it. And so when you're in getting aware, you just have to make yourself okay with having emotions. You need to have the language for it. And that's the first step. That's a big step. That's a hard step for a lot of people because we've been repressing emotionally for so long, so very long. There are other things that needed to be done for me with emotional mastery, and reframing hurt was one of them, where I was like, okay, I just need to get comfortable with being hurt, because hurt happens. Hard things happen. Adversity happens. Storms are going to cross our path. That is life. Anybody who tells you differently is lying to you. You are going to go through storms. Things are going to happen that hurt. Now, you can get to a place where they hurt less. I've done that. Even those of you who feel very, 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 very deeply, which I do, which some people don't understand or believe, but I promise I do. And so if you are someone who feels very deeply and you don't want to be hurt, it's like the gym. You know how the gym hurts, but then you feel so good that you've like worked out and you were like sore, but it's a good sore? You can get there emotionally. reframe hurt in such a way that you're like, hurt happens. It's okay that I'm hurt. Because then you're like, okay, well, why am I hurt? Why did that hurt me? What's coming up for me in this moment? That's how you use your emotions as a good self-reflector. That's how you use your emotions as an indicator. But if you don't even know your emotions, you can't use them because you just ignore them. So you want to be like, shoot, that hurt. Ow. Okay, well, why did that hurt? What hurt about that? What's that bringing up for me? Now, it takes time to get, I can do that now. I can self-regulate my emotions now. I have processes in place. Other thing I want to tell you guys before I pop off is emotions are energy in motion. Emotion equals energy in motion. Anybody who tells you that you should handle your emotions by sitting in solitude or like sitting in silence, no. Emotions need a physical outlet a lot of the time. And I tell my clients this all the time. I'm like, punch a pillow, scream into a pillow, go for a walk, like get it out, because emotions need to move through you. They have to. Otherwise they lodge and they get like an ice cube. Now, if you can do something to move the emotion physically through you, it's like taking ice and making it steam, right? You just heat it up. The hard thing is going back into those hard hurt ice cube places and warming them all up so that they get easier to let go of, which I have done with myself. I have done with others. Like I said, if you're interested in one-on-one coaching, shoot me an email, seasonsandsigns@gmail.com, or shoot me a comment below. And so emotional regulation and emotional mastery is something that is life-changing. Honestly, it's life-changing. Of all of the things, and I've struggled with every single one of these, guys, everything I'm talking to you about, all 7 of these growth systems that we have, I've struggled with every single one of them. And I've now charted the process, how to move through it. So I know how to do it. That's why I'm building a school with my coach friends. Like, okay, so it's important. This stuff is important. And so emotional mastery alone could take you the next 30 years. I mean, it really could. Our emotions are such a fickle master, and some have it more than others. Some people feel things more deeply, more hormonally. Women, we have it harder because our cycles are all over the place, you know? And so emotional mastery is a thing that's always a work in progress. Always a work in progress. But if you can get good at it. You really can. I know that because I went from never doing it ever. I didn't even have language, guys, to now, like, I just self-regulate. I don't even need anybody to really talk things through. I just have my processes and I go do it. And so, yeah, emotional mastery. Really hard one, really good one, really necessary one for us to get the fullness of growth for self. And this is why we've got a lot of people who are, 50-year-olds physically and 12-year-olds emotionally, because they park at the point of their pain and they never go back and investigate it. And everybody has pain because, like, things hurt. So I hope that's helpful. If you like what you're seeing here, like, comment, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, tell your friends, comment below, let me know. We're halfway through this series. I hope you're enjoying it, and then I will see you guys on the next video.